right, so welcome everyone to another episode of Some Days Today. Bola Dina,
Black is king, and I'm representing right now. I'm king.
you sure are.
I sure
You
is.
sure is. Okay, so where are we gonna start? So let me set the stage. We're here to talk about Black is King, Beyonce's work. We're probably gonna touch on her body of work, how consistent this woman has been in the past, I would say at least 7 years.
I love me some Beyonce too. You know
Do
what I'm
you?
saying? Come on, I'm not a super fanatic. I'm not a member of the Beehive per se.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, she's you can't help but you can't be a human being as far as I'm concerned. Listen to Beyonce and not feel the power.
Okay. So that's actually a good segue because let me just say I'm not a part of the Beehive either. I don't think. But clearly I appreciate Beyonce, like you said. I'm going to qualify how much of a fan I am by also putting it in perspective. Let me say, real recognize real. So I can recognize a great body of work. I can recognize someone who has consistently been putting in work at the level that she has been without, because I feel like the beehives and whatever they do, they are a committed bunch of folks who got time. I don't have that time. Matter of fact, I didn't even know she released Black is King until a day into. Remember I told you, I was like, I feel like something happened. And you're like, well, yeah, Beyonce released a new album. And I was just like, but and to be fair, the reason is because I'm really not plugged into social media or media in general. For the most part, I really just do my own thing. So I do miss a lot of things. So when things break, I miss it. But clearly, the minute somebody said Beyonce released something, so I may not be a Beehive all the way, but I already knew I'm gonna have to stop everything I'm doing the rest of the weekend to fully take in this work. And of course, the weekend spilled into the week because I've been jobless for the past 3 days, just reveling in all of Beyonce's greatness. Anyway, so that's me setting the stage. I had no idea the woman released an album. So when I caught wind of the fact that Beyonce released the album, I already knew I was gonna be spending my whole weekend. My weekend had been hijacked, and I was okay with it because I knew that Beyonce's work is one which I have to consume at least 6 or 7 times for me to feel comfortable with it. That's just how I mean, I probably watched Homecoming, I don't know how many times, Lemonade, countless times. Like I have to consume it. I have to be obsessed about it. I have to rethink pieces. I have to really digest the content. So I knew that was what was gonna happen. Honestly, in short, masterpiece. I don't know what else to say. It's a masterpiece. Now, there's a whole lot of other stuff that's been said that we can talk about, but tell me what your reaction was when I don't think you really took it in like I did when you half watched and listened to Black is King.
I don't even know what half watch. What does half watch mean?
I don't know.
Was I doing?
Whatever you did. Whatever
Know what
you
that
did was
means.
half
Well, what you did was full watch. Okay, so I in the same room, watching the same TV, but I have watched it. Okay. Well, I did not. I mean, there are a couple of things that we discussed. Like as far as the entertainment value of it, I don't think it compares to a Lemonade. Like the songs were not, from my perspective, as entertaining.
Interesting.
They weren't as just pure hitting. And I mean, we discussed this too off the air. But I mean, for me, it wasn't like, oh, this is just hitting me. Like, but I understand the cultural value of it, and I understood it from the beginning. Understand the cultural value of what's happening, and it's more than just entertainment. So I think that was the intention. Like I before I even so I did know that it was going to be dropped
Why didn't you
at
tell me?
midnight Pacific. I believe that I did, and I kept on mentioning it, and I believe that I said, "Yeah, we're gonna watch Black is King." Maybe you had no
Maybe you
idea
didn't
what I
say it
was
was
talking about.
Beyonce. Yeah, I had no idea what was going on. Yeah.
So I was the one saying we're gonna watch it multiple times.
So you felt like it was a cultural piece, so the entertainment value wasn't there for you as much.
Right.
Interesting. Okay. Um, I beg to differ, but I guess maybe I can center. I actually think the music is amazing. I think it's beautiful. But maybe it's also because I have an
You
ear.
cannot beg to differ. It's my opinion.
No, it's true. You're right.
You can say, "Oh, I felt differently," but
Yeah, I differ on that point that the entertainment value was not there, is what I'm saying from
right.
my perspective. It's always my perspective.
Okay.
Um, but that's fine. So before we even get into the content, the music, um, I am curious as to why
I felt like it was a
cultural,
cultural piece. I didn't know
cultural
what
piece.
it was
So
going
you
to
felt
be.
like it was going to be that from the beginning.
No, I felt like that's what it was. I didn't know what it was going to. I
Okay,
couldn't
gotcha.
know what it was going to be. I mean, yeah.
So let me tell you how I experienced this. Listen to it. As usual, I knew that I was missing a bunch of things as it was playing because there was just so much to it. It was so visually rich and stunning. It was almost too much. There was just so much going on. You know, the costumes and then the rapidity at which it was constantly being changed and just the volume of it and the scale. It was a lot to take in. And I knew that a lot of it had specific symbolism, relevance, or even connection to the content that was being discussed. That I was like, oh my god, this is like I'm gonna have to do a whole study of this album. That's how I felt the weight of this project from the beginning when I was watching it. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be like an exercise for me, but I welcomed it. But really, when it ended, honestly, I was in awe because I was just like, and I remember telling you this, and I actually felt like everybody felt this, which it wasn't until the evening because I was enveloped in the whole message she was creating. And I actually thought it was so obvious and it was so real, but apparently not because clearly there's controversy, that's emerged a little bit prior and since. Um, but really, my sentiments were, and it's funny that Tyrese posted a similar message that we were watching. I was just like, wow, Beyonce must be tired. This woman has got to be tired because for me, what I saw in her or what I see in her is a woman who is putting the weight of a whole culture, a whole people on her back and dragging it forward. That has got to be exhausting. I can't, it's got to be exhausting. And I was in awe of just the masterpiece for what it was, the excellence, the content, everything. But then I could not help but just feel empathy. Like I was just like, wow, how exhausting to be you, for you to feel this calling, because I know there's certain things that I want, that I may have in my space, in my heart or my soul, that I want to bring forth. It's never been to that scale. I mean, we all dream about doing things or whatever, but the magnitude of the art that you are bringing forth, not only in its like practical sense, but the symbol of it, you drag it. That's a lot. That's a lot. And I really just felt like just great empathy for her. I was like, beyond. I mean, I've never felt this much respect for Beyonce, and the reason being that yes, we can talk about, because even while we were watching it, I was like, you know what? The only thing that I can probably speak to that this does not do is it's not necessarily innovative as much as is a continuation of the discussion from her cinematography perspective, in terms of how she presents her work. It's very much reminiscent of Lemonade from my perspective. So I was like, the art piece in terms of how it was shot is not necessarily different, but I think the fashion made up for it, the the scenery, the content, everything else made up for all of that. but it was a lot. It was a lot. I could not. I was in true reverence of her. Like if I was not a Beyonce, whatever they call themselves before, at this point, bona fide.
Whatever I don't think you can be
Beehive.
bona fide because you don't
I
even
don't
know
know
what
what
they
they call
call
themselves.
themselves. You can't be a
I'm a
member.
new initiate. I'm a new. I'm gonna have to be. What do they call those? I'm gonna have to be hazed. I'm gonna have to be tortured. But at this point, I'm ready for it. Beyonce is king. Forget everything else.
Alrighty.
Forget black is king. Beyonce is king at this. Like, you got this. You got this. And it was like, this was the feeling and the sentiment that I couldn't really articulate. And I remember I was reveling in it. I was so beautiful. And fast forward to when we were watching the Tyrese thing, and people should go watch Tyrese's video when he was just like, I'm speechless. I don't know what just happened. Basically, he was saying, I just watched this whole video. I don't know what just happened to my life, but it will never be the same again. There was life prior to Black is King and life post Black is King. And that's exactly how I felt. I was just like, I can't. This is a masterpiece of work.
Okay, so for me, going back to the idea that it didn't hit me as powerfully as it did you guys. Clearly, you and Tyrese. I saw the Tyrese thing.
And me and Tyrese.
I was like, and obviously a ton of other people who are not known to me. But anyways, it didn't hit me as powerfully, and I think there are multiple reasons for that. And it's not that I couldn't feel it and understand it when it was explained, and I also agreed with it. But I also, feel like part of the reason why it didn't hit me as powerfully is because I feel like what she is doing is essentially picking up what is being done already and putting it on her back because of her stature.
Okay.
She can do that. Like the people that she put on her album are doing this already. They are like, I mean, we've discussed this as well. And the night that you brought this up, because you had the watching with, your friends,
bunch of girls, yeah.
And you had to basically bring that perspective to them, because I think they also felt like I felt. It was like, I've seen this done before,
it was
and
a
that sort of
lukewarm
thing.
reaction that people
And
had
so,
to it. Yeah.
when you brought this up, like, I could understand your perspective, and you had to explain it, and I agreed. But again, from my perspective, like, I feel like a ton of the people that she brought onto her album have been doing this. They have the face painting and all those other things. Burna Boy bringing back that fella feel and all that stuff, and us even talking about how there is a level of it that is more like a stagnant piece than a contextual piece, whereas like you can see the whole entire. So then I think that's part of what the not objection, but the critique has been. It's more like, I see that piece, and part of it, not all of it. I think a lot of what the critique is just pure hate and lack of understanding. But I think there's also part of it that is a stagnant piece, whereas there's context and layers that's added to some of the stuff that we have seen being done in Afro beats right now, where you can see the actual country and how it is currently being lived, and appreciating that. And so I feel like I've seen much of that. And so for me, the value that she is bringing is her stature, and saying, okay, I see what you guys are doing. Let me lend you a hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that I appreciate it. I love it. And not only do I love it, I feel part of it. And I'm going to do my best to bring you guys up. And I think that needs to be commended, lauded, appreciated, and all that good stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay. So, what's the word? It's not a backlash, but a consequence that you did not expect. And I think what's coming, what seems to be rearing its head from the visual album is that people are forgetting that this is about the music. And music to me is very much about the content, the lyrics. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I think because it was such a revolutionary thing for her to drop fucking 14 music videos all at once for, when she did Beyonce or whatever it was, and then she followed it up with Lemonade, and she's been presenting her work through this lens for some time, that I think people forget that this is actually like, she is a musician. She is presenting content through her work, and she is a philosopher through her work. And so when people talk about how, well, the face painting has been done, and a lot of the people who critique this particular work, Africans, which we're gonna get to later, because I don't even know if I have the patience to even address this right now, but I do want to put the work in its proper context. Before the visuals and everything else, this woman is a poet, she's a philosopher, and she is upholding or creating a new standard for which we should be viewing ourselves as Black people. Forget any other visuals that comes along with it. Like, if there were no music videos, if these were just words on paper, this would be powerful. The content. And I think what I implore people, because I've had a couple of conversations, and all I had to say was, the message, the historic and momentous sort of messaging and refocusing of where we should be kind of putting our energy as Black people. I think that whole thing got lost in the visuals for a lot of people. So now we're like, well, she's not the first one to do this or whatever. But really what Beyonce is saying, by the title itself, Black is King, she's saying we're not having these conversations with nobody no more. We're not sitting here. There was a quote that I wrote, and they say the true unfortunate function of racism is distraction, because you're having to constantly basically assert your humanity from the work at hand, which is for you to manifest, to bring forth, to create, and continue to push forward whatever God has placed on your heart as a people, as an individual. But for you to waste time talking about your right to exist. And that's really where we find a lot of us, when we talk about Black Lives Matter, not that it's not an important concept, and not that Black people don't need to talk about equality, diversity, and all this other stuff. But what Beyonce is saying is, we're not talking about this no more. Ain't no argument. Black is king, period. We are here. Not only do we matter, but we are royalty. And I think that's an important shift in the discussion. And I think she does this constantly, repeatedly, over and over. Is the same thing she did with Lemonade, because at the time, and I mean, just in general, we've always talked about how Black women are the least loved, the least protected. People look at us and like, oh yeah, well, your pain don't matter as much as everybody else. And she presented and sort of sharpened the focus on, just Black femininity and the power, but also the humanity that we can have, all at the same time. We can sit here, we can be your backbone, we can back you up as a Black man and all this other stuff. When you cheat on me, I may have to cut you, by the same time, listen, I'm weak. Like, I need you to step up, because, and we can, that was a redefining of Black women, and presented us as ratchet, beautiful, vulnerable, powerful, sexy. We could do all of this on our own if we needed to, but ultimately we need you, type of thing. That's a redefining of the conversation, not, hey guys, please look at us, we're still Black women out here, we still matter. And she does that she did the same thing with Homecoming. And what I was trying to say, before, is that Beyonce don't gotta do nothing. Beyonce can show up, and all these people are, asking her, hey, we want you to grace our Coachella stage, we want you to grace our Super Bowl stage. But every single time she redefines the conversation. So when you talk about, well, everybody is doing this, the visuals and all this other stuff, I feel like Beyonce, she is not regurgitating the same concept. She's not sitting here entertaining the idea of Black relevance. She is sitting here affirming Black dominance, which I think is a shift. It is like that's a huge shift. We sitting here trying to matter, Black Lives Matter, and she's like, Nah, man, we've moved on. We moved on from this conversation. We don't let them. We don't tell them we matter. At this point, we no longer having this conversation. We moving on. So for her to be able to walk into the studios of Disney, I mean, I remember when I was like, wait, I'm sorry, somebody's album is called Black is King, and somebody let that slide. Particularly Disney. That is bold. Like how she crafted the whole thing, and then the content in each of the songs. I think superficially you could look at it and be like, oh yeah, it's so cute, it's for kids, it's Lion King and everything. But if you analyze the content, which really this is what it's about, it's music. Nah, I think second to none. I don't know anybody else doing this. Shifting the perspective. So this is where I want you to focus, and I'm gonna bring all of mainstream, media, people, pop culture, whatever culture, international culture, everybody. This is where the spotlight is going to be now, and it's going to get the backing of some white people because they're going to push this message. I don't think anybody else doing this. I don't know. You let me know who.
Well, nobody is on Beyonce's statue, so let's be clear. When I was responding, I don't disagree with. You called it content. I don't know that necessarily that I would call it content, because I'm not. I mean, if you go into the actual words that are being said, I think it's intent for me. I agree that the intent there is, and I feel like that's what I said. Like, she's giving people who are doing this a hand and saying, here's what the conversation should be about. Let me elevate it to this level of stature, to this level of global visibility. And it's because and obviously it's because she feels like that's what that's what she wants to do. That's where the conversation should be. So she has an idea, she has a vision. So I'm not arguing that at all. So my point was not to say that she's not doing all those things, because I agree that she is. I agree that she has, especially since she has started to open up. Like, people talk about this when she was with her father. They had this carefully crafted image and nobody really knew who she was. And I don't know if it's because of the times. Now we have more access to people, because recently we were just watching Michael Jordan, who gave us in The Last Dance and a little peek into his life, and I felt like, I mean, this is great. Like, back in the days you didn't know who he was, but maybe it's because of the times, maybe because of more access. But the more authentic you can be, the more that we can see that you're human, the more that we like you. And I remember when she did that piece on HBO thinking, wow, I think that was part of, I don't even know if it was before that, but it definitely was like, okay, I really like her now. But I remember thinking she was really afraid of releasing that, because she was like, oh my God, I'm exposing myself. And I truly get that feeling. Is so interesting for somebody of that stature to be afraid of exposing themselves. But
there was a scene where she had to get at her people for not coming through, and you could tell she was feeling uncomfortable because the cameras were on her, but she had to be like, listen, we're not gonna compromise this art, y'all gotta come through. So I just felt like ever since then that, giving us access to her thoughts and her mind, and this is part of the whole entire evolution. This is where I want to go. So I definitely agree that this is her vision, and so for me, it wasn't that it's definitely not that I disagree that this is her vision. It's not that I disagree that this is what her intent was, and not that she is creating an agenda and pushing the culture along. But for me, the question was why, or for me, what I was responding to is whether or not I was as impacted. And the reason I was not as impacted is because it wasn't necessarily new to me. So what I was seeing wasn't new to me. But again, like I said from the beginning, like, I feel like the cultural relevance, the cultural impact is definitely big. So you're saying from a maybe visual, but maybe even like a sonic, if we were to use Afrobeats perspective, it wasn't necessarily new to you. So it wasn't like a mind-blowing experience when you listen to the music.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, I could see that. I think I think the reason why when I listen to a Beyonce work, and we probably should do this in general for all artists, because I'm sure all artists have a perspective that they're pushing out there, but I think Beyonce's is so definitive that it requires you to really just take pause. I think there's a lot of music out there in general that seems to be regurgitating the same thing. So even if sonically Beyonce's music sounds kind of like the next Afrobeat and maybe even somewhat subpar, depending on, if you're a true Afrobeat enthusiast, I don't think it is. I think it's right up there with, all the other great music that she's either put out or that I've heard from other Afrobeat musicians. And I think it's probably more of a amalgamation, of Africa meets African American culture. So maybe it's in its own lane, Beyonce, Afrobeat, Beyonce-fied or what have you. So it's, from that perspective, it's somewhat different. But I guess I just don't really listen to Beyonce from that perspective. And maybe that's why I was able to fully immerse myself into it and fully see the whole picture that she's trying to paint. And I still feel like, and I've probably seen it about 4 times now, I still feel like I don't really have a full grasp of it. I need to watch it maybe another 4 more times to truly understand it. And you'll see, like even yesterday, after seeing this, I was like, I'm going to have to go back and watch some of her other work just to be able to put it in context. Because I'm like, this just seemed to be so amazing. I was questioning, is this coming out of nowhere? And watching her other work, I could see the growth, but I feel like she has finally fully stepped into her own. And maybe as a result of the Black Lives Matter movement, or maybe Trump being in office, I don't know what's going on, but
this was a year in the making. I think this is a representation of how she feels. Personally, this is my opinion. Obviously, I haven't had a conversation with Beyonce in a minute. But my feeling is that, this is like a representation of what the legacy she wants to leave for her children. That's based on, my feeling. It's like, yes, we're black and we're beautiful. And
it's almost, there seems to be such an urgency to it even. Like, she's like, I'm not having no more conversations. Like, we're not doing this. I need y'all to understand. And she even said that. It's funny, I watched the documentary, kind of just trying to understand her mind. And part of what she said, which I felt came through loud and clear here, was, oh no, maybe that was Lemonade. I don't remember. But basically, she was just like, listen, there's so much going on that you can get lost as an individual. But this is the time for us to step into our greatness and understand that the only thing that can limit us is our imagination, is yourselves. And she said, at this point, I'm kind of basically letting go of all of that and stepping into, stepping into my greatness, but trying to push as far as I can get. And I urge everybody to do that. And she basically said, that's what I'm going to be doing. And I was just like, babe, you're doing it. You are doing exactly just that. And there's an urgency to me that I felt like came through, which is why, even like the title Black is King was just like, I just need y'all to understand. I'm not trying to water down any message. I'm not trying to do that. This is where we are. This is what the conversation should be about. This is where we need to be focusing. And this is what I'm going to be serving up. Y'all can come on the ride or not, but this is what I'm going to be doing. And I felt like it's coming through in all of the pieces, and obviously, that's also part of the theme of Lion King, in terms of, you've always been a king, you got lost, you're a prince, you got lost, but it's time for you to come home. The kingdom needs you. Go ahead and occupy this space, and I thought it was so that, the message of the Lion King is so, almost kind of like so akin to the message in the story of African Americans, and that which African Americans have been grappling with. Who are we? How did we get here? But the message is, you are a part of great people. You can find your way home, even if you can't see it right now. It's there. You got to dig in. And you can occupy that space. And I feel like African Americans, definitely are delivering on that. Occupying that space. And she's really urging that message along.
It's not just African Americans. So, and I want to say this too, because for those, you're Nigerian.
Yes.
quote unquote.
Ain't no quote
You were
unquote. Ain't
you
no
were born
quote.
in Dallas. And the reason I'm saying that for a specific
You're not
reason.
gonna water this down.
I'm
Full
saying
blown.
this for a specific reason.
Okay.
And the reason I'm saying this is, we're gonna touch up on this, but I know that we're gonna delve into a little bit more. But there are people who, on the continent, born on the continent, I presume, who knows, I don't know their background, but people who have critiques on what she's doing and saying like she's exploiting African culture
Yes.
for her, and it's kind of like, I don't do you do not have the power to take away my Africanness.
No, it's
just
stupid.
because you're on the continent.
Nah.
Okay, you do not have the power to take away my Africanness, and so if you go and you have a child, and this is what in the U.S. does that make her not African anymore?
Are my kids less African than they are?
This is crazy.
This is retarded.
So I'm saying, so this is her story as far as I'm concerned. She didn't decide I'm going to give up my Africanness. Her story's, having Simba'd her way out of Africa to the U.S. and trying to find her way back is no less African than anybody else, and she can tell it the way that she freaking feels. And from my perspective, I think a lot of people don't recognize that, not just African Americans. This is why I say this, because I was born in Haiti, and this is the case with every person in the diaspora who was stripped of their identity and their when they were taken as slaves, in their history. Everyone has been looking to reconnect back from time indefinite. Like, there's been many movements. Marcus Garvey was a Jamaican. The whole Rastafarian movement was born out of the entire need or desire to reconnect. Back in the 70s, we were wearing dashikis and all that good stuff. The civil rights movement was always associated with the liberation movement that was happening in Africa at the time. And there was always that desire, that longing. And so, the thing that is true about the African American experience at the time is that they happened to live in the most powerful country, and so they were the most visible. And so they were the most visible, and so there's a reason why, not only because the truth is that African American culture permeates the entire world, like Japanese, Chinese, all we're able to do a lot of things because we're just cool. You know what I'm saying? We bring the cool. And so I'm using myself as an African American interchangeably, but because I feel like that's my culture. But that said,
But essentially, that's an African culture. African people are just cool.
That's true. I mean, and it's being reflected in the clothing and the vibrance and the colorfulness and all that good stuff. And not just colorful in clothing, but colorful in behavior and conversation. And so the thing is, though, with the African American culture, because they happen to be part of the most powerful nation, they had the most visibility. And even then, the Africans and everywhere else in the diaspora were looking towards, like, there is a sort of I guess a gravitas that African Americans carry amongst Africans and around the world, because we happen to occupy that space. But the truth is, I feel like
really, I think it's really probably what it is.
Yeah,
like,
because you happen to be in part of the
you got more resources, there's access, but that's also why the Afrobeats sort of phenomenon is amazing, because you're starting to now see Africa in its element, and if it was more resourced,
and that's the point I'm trying to get to. So so the thing is that that with the African American culture, and what I think Beyonce is doing, and this is what I want to speak to, is the significance, because I don't think, and I know that you are articulating it, but I think we need to articulate it for the Africans out there who are being critical, or even African Americans who just don't really understand it.
Who didn't get it.
Like, what she is saying is, listen, I hear you bubbling up, Africans that we have always been like trying to connect with, and I'm loving it, and I'm putting that on the agenda because I am at the place where I can do that. And now I'm saying, if you see that, here's your opportunity, because of what what I'm trying to do. Here's your opportunity to take that and run with it. I can't do everything on my own, but I am doing what I can. And the significance of that, I think, needs to be understood.
You know what I mean? That's how real this album was for me, or this whole project. The definitive nature of it was not to be questioned in any way for me. So when I started hearing questions, and the first part of it was from my African American sisters, I actually was more empathetic towards it because I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's because I'm African, because I could see the culture, I got the language, I got the beats, I got the references, I got the artists because I know the artists, I got the little, the little nods here, the unspoken sort of content that's in message that's being conveyed. So I was like, okay, well, all right. So I could see how maybe you may have missed it. So that's either going to be you either gonna jam to this or you not. So if it doesn't hit you at that level and you don't have time to be looking at the content and everything, maybe it's just not for you. So I could see that, particularly African Americans missing it. At least maybe not missing it completely, but it not resonating to the level that it resonated with me. But I was sure my Africans were gonna get it. I was sure. What is there not to get, people? This woman don't gotta do nothing. That's what I was saying. Listen, Beyonce is Beyonce. This woman has projects being thrown at her feet. She don't gotta do nothing but go collect those checks and go home and watch her babies. That's all Beyonce gotta do at this point. She don't gotta do nothing for nobody. Matter of fact, when Beyonce chooses,
Yeah, and this is just real quickly. I want to say that the idea, like people were talking about for capitalist ways, and she's trying to make money. Like first and foremost, I believe that combined they are $1 billion. Let's say, for example, they're billionaires. Like let's say, for example, she's trying to go to 2 billion, whatever, how many billions that she's trying to get to. Do you really think she needs to use the African story to get there? Like she couldn't come up with another lemonade. Like she can't come up with another topic. Like all of her loyal followers are just not going to go in and be like, okay, Beyonce came out with something. Like seriously, she's doing, like, you really think when you make this argument that it's about capitalism, that this is about capitalism?
so let's just put what the critique is. I mean, there's so many that I I was like, after a while I was like, you know what, y'all got me. I'm done. I can't. But one of the many is, she is appropriating, is that the word, appropriating African culture that she herself doesn't understand, and then making money off of it in the context of white gaze. So there's like a bunch, there's a lot there. Do you know what I mean? So there's the white gaze component. So basically you tap dancing for those white people. Leveraging your African people, misrepresenting their culture, all for the sake of capitalism.
If that were the intent, that would be one. If that were truly the intent, first of all, they cannot ascribe intent to somebody they have no idea. So like now you're just gonna tell her exactly what she intended to do. But second of all, there is nothing, from what I understand, unless they can point out to me where the data points that they're using to say that this is her intent, that they can then go and say that's her intent. From everything that I can see, first and foremost, that was not her intent. Secondly, even if she was truthfully just looking to make money, she does not have to use she doesn't have to use it. So I mean, but whatever, that we can discuss the other elements of this, of the accusation, of the
I don't
criminal
know where to
elements,
start.
so called.
It's so, let me tell you. So the first thing I just need people to understand is Beyonce, at this point in Beyonce's life, she ain't gotta do nothing but wake up, collect those checks, and go back and mine Sir Carter, Blue Ivy, and whatever the other girl's name, Rumi. That's all. That's all her
really
business.
Did you just make up her name? Is that really her name?
No,
Is it Rumi?
it's Rumi.
Oh.
Maybe I'm more of a Beyonce whatever than I
Certainly
thought I
are.
was. Those are the three things Beyonce. Those are her three business at this point that she got in mind. Raising those kids up. Beyonce doesn't got to worry about you and your broke ass. Especially not Africans. Like, what are we talking about?
I think she said that. I'm so unbothered.
I am beyond unbothered. I'm sitting
I'm
here
so
cashing
unbothered.
checks
Why you stay? What was it? I'm so bothered. Why you
You
stay
stay,
in your
hey,
struggle?
you stay.
Stay in your struggle.
She said, stay in your struggle, girl. Stay in your struggle. And that's the problem. See, Africans, I mean, I was beyond flabbergasted. Number one, not only did this woman take her time, Disney came to Beyonce. They said, we want you to do a soundtrack. And she said, this is an opportunity for me to not only showcase black people and the beauty and the complexities and everything, I'm also going to go one step further and goddamn feature a bunch of black artists, music that y'all ain't never heard. And we're going to make it about Afro beats. We're going to make it about this moment. There are a good 5 or more songs on this album. That's like 30%. That Beyonce didn't say one word on. She didn't say one word. Tiwa Savage got the stage. Burna Boy got the stage. Wizkid got the stage. Like, she literally played backseat to these people on her album. These people who, in their wildest dreams, you probably would never have thought Disney was gonna have you. You were gonna be on a soundtrack for The Lion King and being pushed by Disney. That's like some things dreams are made of for artists. Beyonce said, you know what? Y'all can have my platform. Go ahead and do this. I'm good. Go ahead and do it. You know? And these people created music. It elevated Afrobeats to a level and got it to like to be so mainstream to a point where people that y'all didn't even think would be listening to your music are going to be rocking it, jamming to it. So she did that.
Yeah. I want to also say, listen, this whole idea, first of all, I have an issue with the whole concept of appropriation to a huge extent, to be quite honest. Like, maybe it's because of what the understanding or what the true definition of appropriation is, and maybe that's what it is. Perhaps, you know, if the definition is you're using the elements of the culture and not saying this is where it's from, for me, then I get that, because, you know, you're saying I'm just going to basically appropriate, which is basically steal and pretend it's yours. Like, it's plagiarism. It's you know, copying and not giving credit. You know what I'm saying? And so I get that, because I'm sitting here doing my thing. You go and steal my idea, you know, steal my creative idea. This is exactly why we have, you know, patent law and all that good stuff, copyright. You didn't credit me. But let's be clear, from my perspective, being copied is also a form of flattery, and from my perspective, it is part of the soft power that, you know, people are putting out for their culture. It's like, here's the reason why people want to be like Michael Jordan, and they want to dread their hair in Japan because the culture is spreading out. So the idea that other people are doing that, and by definition that means it's a bad thing, to me is just limiting yourself. White people are selling their culture everywhere. Okay? And so why should I say this whole white gaze? So now I want to make money, and you know what? The only people I'm going to make it for is just you two. You few people over here. Like, why should I not be able to sell my culture and my art everywhere? And the minute I do it, instead of saying, especially since I'm attributing it, I'm giving credit to where it's from. The minute I do it, it's a problem. Like, now I'm doing it for white gays. So because I should, with the status that I have, I should be like, okay, I'm closing the doors to everyone else. Let me figure out how to make sure that this doesn't get out to anywhere else. Or is it that I should just not make any money off of it at all?
I think it's that, you know, in that, you know, I think people think Beyonce, I don't know what it is. Quite frankly, it probably is similar to what you said, in that people just feel like they got to say something negative because, you know, if you agree that this is truly a masterpiece, how are you standing out? You know what I mean? Like, you actually got to say something because you're trying to stand out. That's part of it. But I think the other part of it is,
they should in fact thank Beyonce for making themselves relevant. It's like, damn, thank you for giving me something to talk about. You
basically are the one who's appropriating at this point her moment, you know. Yeah. But I think also, though, if we were to consider the criticism as valid in any way, then you're actually offering yourself, your culture, your perspective as inferior to other cultures and other perspectives. Meaning, So a lot of what I've heard some people, Africans, my fellow Africans, say is, well, you sit in here rocking white paint on your body. That's not what we do. Quite frankly, there's a whole bunch of Africans who actually practice traditional religion, who practice Ifa, Yoruba, and all these other whatever. And some of these religions have now sort of gone international. There's Santeria. I think it's in Cuba or Brazil. Some of this, forms of Yoruba is being practiced. Even Yugoslavia. Like these people make, just like people go on pilgrimage.
I mean, the whole
like,
entire Africa is practicing Christianity.
That's what I'm saying. So
like,
why is it okay for you sitting here every day, you go to church and you go practice somebody else's religion, somebody else's culture, and you okay with that? But then Beyonce wants to sit here, paint her body, represent a religion, a culture that, quite frankly, a lot of Africans still practice, and this is the same religion and culture that white people have worked so hard to stamp out.
Yeah.
And she's sitting here saying, nah, wait a minute, people. We got this culture. We need to shine some light on this. Mm-hmm. And she is validating it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
validating it, and y'all got issues with it.
Yeah, so to bring the point home that you were making, like somebody, and you said this to me, that somebody said, okay, we have grown out of that or something like that. Like
Somebody said, well, we've evolved out of painting our faces, and now we got skyscrapers, yachts, and I'm like, where?
Okay.
Where are these yachts in Africa?
First and foremost, beside
maybe 0.1% of the population, who got these yachts?
0.0001.
What are we talking about?
But that's beside the point. Like, I mean, most of the U.S. doesn't have yachts all over the place, and like the U.S. has 2 coasts. And then there's a whole middle part where it's freaking farmland, the flyover country, where most people aren't doing none of that shit. But whatever. The point though is the idea now that you have just said, you know what, we have yachts and buildings and whatever the case may be. We've evolved beyond that.
And animals in our backyards.
It's a commentary on
your discomfort with yourself.
Yeah, it's a commentary on your on your discomfort with yourself. It's kind of like you have to evolve to become more like white folks. And now, first of all, you don't want us to be, what is it? To the gaze of white folks, tap dancing to the gaze of white folks. But then you want to be like, here, I want to be more like them, because that means we've evolved.
People asking for representation. When we look on TV and all we see is white little girls, it doesn't, we need to affirm who we are. And she literally is like, this is who we are. Mm. And y'all got issues with it. Mm. It's what I'm saying. Like, this, what I had to take a step back on and realize is we need help. Like, we are beyond confused at this point. And I was talking to Nubia earlier. I said, let me tell you what's going on right now. You're lost in the sea or in a jungle somewhere, and you praying to God, please just send me somebody. I just need somebody to come rescue me. Here comes Beyonce. Oh, you want representation? You want people elevating your art? You want people affirming who you are? And you want it to be presented in all things beautiful? I'm here to do that for you, and you ain't even got to pay me for it. And we sitting here, oh no, God, that's the devil right there. Please send me some real help. Send me some, like, we're confused. Mm-hmm. You can't even understand beauty, cultural advancement. You can't understand affirmation. You can't understand, when your children look at Lion King, this is what they see. Blackness, black elegance. We're not showing hoods. We're not showing the ghetto. We're not showing struggle. We're showing elegance, beauty, culture.
Yeah.
And y'all got issues with that.
And so a couple of things that I want to say on this one. So the first is that, so the argument is, like there's the quote unquote Wakandification of Africa. Like the whole idea that we have, like we like all of Africa is a certain way, like, they all dress in a certain way and that sort of thing, where there's, a lot of uniqueness, a lot of layers that is not being talked about. They're trying to, like, first and foremost, I want to say, well, I hope you appreciate that more than the image that was being shown before all over our TVs, where it was like a nickel a day, swelling bellies, everybody flies all over and you're hungry and everything. I hope you appreciate the one where it's like, yes, it may not be buildings and yachts, but it's like regal. It's beautiful. It's art. It's beautiful people. It's strong people.
Especially
And
because
then,
she ain't gotta do this.
yeah, and then
Beyonce don't gotta do this.
and then more than anything, first and foremost, like one person is not required to tell the whole entire story. Nobody goes in and gets up in arms when there are movies about Greek gods, okay? Or nobody gets upset when there are movies about Greek gods and painting Americans as a
Medieval
certain way or
times.
whatever, medieval times, whatever the case, or dragons and all this other stuff. Nobody is saying, I don't know what kind of thing they would call it, Westerofication, Westeros from Game of Thrones. Nobody has any issues with that. But then we go and we paint ourselves in a way that says, yeah, we're beautiful too. And instead of saying, okay, I like that you're playing this role and giving us a positive light, giving us, as Beyonce, giving us a stage. I'm gonna take that and run with it. I'm gonna put that on my back and run with it. Now what else can I do? Now let me show you the other parts, because now I got people watching. You know, instead of saying that, you want to go and hate again, because, and this is the thing, like when you and I think hopefully, you know, the chatter is so low that it doesn't rise to the level that it impacts or affects Beyonce at any point, because there are a lot of people who are loving it, and I hope that's the only thing that she's hearing, because the truth is that it's so much easier to sit there and complain and say and feel like you've done something and be like, oh, I'm relevant because now I can say, here's how I'm going to approach it in a way that's different, and I'm going to be part of the conversation. And so instead of saying, okay, I see what you're doing, here's how I'm going to add to it, here's the value I'm going to bring myself, instead you're just going to go and break shit down and instead of taking what is given to you. And that's the sad part, because the truth is that you have been given a gift. Take it, run with it. And that's just that. Like, stop complaining about all this stuff. Nobody cares about Wakandification, because that's just one aspect. You want to tell the other ones?
By
Step
all
up.
means. And I actually felt like she actually, and that's what I'm like, did these people watch the movie from start to finish? Because she actually did show various parts. It wasn't all body paints. You know, she showed the city, she showed regular life, she showed, you know, rural life, she showed women
she
and their
attempted.
struggle. Like she showed lots of different parts of it. And it was never from a place of dearth or a struggle perspective. It was always from a place of beauty. And I think the reason why this resonate, you know, I always talk about growing up. You know, in Nigeria, I would go to my grandparents' village. And they lived in huts. I've always seen it as beautiful.
Yep.
So
you
what
always,
does it say
you
about
always
you?
say that that's one of the best parts of your life. Like,
Best parts.
staying there.
I can't, like, when people ask me, you know, growing up, you know, what experience are you most thankful for experiencing? It's always that. And that's why when I look at, you know, like how Africa has always been presented, I've never bought into that narrative, because I'm like, I don't know what you're showing or what narrative you spinning on top of this. I know these people. These people that you just show, you know, with a fly in her mouth, cool boy, you know, in the neighborhood that's about to start break dancing to Michael Jackson, you know, and people are going to be giving money to, and he's going to run into his little hut and come back and be eating it. Like, he's having a good old time. That's who these people are. Like, I've never bought the narrative of just because you don't have material things don't mean you're poor. It never made sense to me, because I've always seen it the other way. And I think that really is what we need to question as people, is the idea that who we are, because there are lots of Africa that is this, and it's okay. This is how we present, and how we present does not always have to be from a Western European perspective. It doesn't always have to be that we live in high rises. That's just somebody's perspective of how the world could function. Asians have their own perspective on how they choose to, you know, come together and their civilizations. So just because these fools don't come in to tell you that this is less than, you've decided to buy into this story. don't mean it's actually fact. And what you're doing is helping to tell that narrative, actually, that it is less than. And I've never seen it that way. So that's actually why. So when I see all of this beauty that Beyonce provides, I'm in awe. Constantly, I'm always in awe because I'm like, finally. So when you're saying they're talking about, well, you know, we got bridges and skyscrapers. Number one, where? I mean, not to say that it doesn't exist. Is that the norm? Hello, people. Let's be for real. It's not. It's not the norm, but the gag is that's okay. It doesn't have to be the norm. It doesn't have to be the norm. Like, we don't, this is not a spectrum of, we're being led from huts all the way from, nah, it doesn't have to. You can envision this world in whatever, and paint it in whatever color you want, and it is all okay.
And the thing is, though, more than that, because for my, okay, it is okay. But it is also okay for you to say, okay, this is where we're headed. But the idea that to say that this is where we're headed and this is the progress we made, that means I got to take down somebody who is actually doing something to help, is the real issue. From my perspective, it's like this and that. Yes, do that. Thank you.
Yes.
People are now saying, oh, Africa looks good and all that good stuff. Okay, now this.
Now let me add to it.
Yeah,
let me tell a different perspective.
Yeah, let me now focus, or even if it's not tell, let her do the telling. Okay, and then you know what? They're sitting there Wakandifying Africa. Okay, it hurts you how? Okay, why don't you then worry about how to help yourself? Worry about. It's so easy again to just sit and complain. Like, how are you actually helping? Go help. Make the things that you want happen, and shut the hell up.
And that's the trick. And number one, that's why. I mean, we're all human beings, and we could say Beyonce is well resourced. Yes, she is. She got lots of money. But if anyone has ever seen any sort of behind the scenes, like Beyonce literally, like after she got twins, in 2-3 months, she lost weight to go perform on Coachella. Like, do you remember the diet that she said she was on? One night but water and juice. This woman is putting in work. Like, when you see the behind the scenes of how everything comes together, she's getting at her stage managers, the video people, and all this other stuff. She's doing the choreography. Like, she is putting in work. She has an idea in her mind. And when these things finally are presented, you could sit here. I mean, there are lots of people like, well, you know, artists don't really do anything. It's other people who are doing it. No, but this is what's in this woman's mind. And she is doing whatever is necessary to bring it forth, which is a lot of work. A lot of work. It doesn't matter how much money you got. It's a lot of work to present that type of art piece. And for you to not forget everything now, even if you are like a superstar killing it in these streets, you should still be able to recognize the greatness that she's done. Talk less of if you're not even doing 1% of what she's doing. You better ask yourself what you should be doing, because that's why every time I see Beyonce's project, I'm just like, okay, yeah, I gotta get it together. That's it. I mean, ain't nothing else. Gots to get it together. That's it.
She just need to send some money my way. That's all I'm saying.
So, anyways, in wrapping, I mean, I think it's unfortunate, and I really, like you were saying, you know, I hope these are just little, you know, like just gnats kind of just talking, but it doesn't really bubble up to her, because how ungrateful would we be for someone to really just put out what she just did? Like, you went to Disney and told those executives, I'm going to do a project and name it Black is King. I wish you would question me about it, because I'm about to take myself and go somewhere else. Beyonce doesn't gotta do that. Like, she literally said, on the backs of everything else that y'all are producing, I'm going to do a project called Black is King, and y'all are going to be okay with it. Even if she didn't do nothing else, the fact that she named this album Black is King, gangster.
It's fucking king.
I don't know what else to say. Like, what are we doing, people? Fall in line and bow down, like she said.
Bow down, bitches.
Bow down, bitches. Ain't nobody got time for this. What are we doing? She's done too much.
H-Town Vicious. All right.
So, anyways, this was good, but
Well, it
thank you,
was.
thank you, Beyonce, for getting us straight.
Mhm.
Thank you for the work that you are doing.
Mhm.
Thank you for putting us in the light that you are putting us. Thank you for continuing to share your platform when you did not have to.
Mhm.
More than anything, thank you for the constant reminder that ain't no conversations about relevance and we matter. We're not doing this no more. We're dominant.
Yeah. Thank you, Jay-Z too.
I mean, whatever, dude. I mean, he did something.
He's married her.
He's a supportive husband.
He's a supportive husband.
Okay. Whatever.
And he's done a lot. Jay-Z is.
I mean, his.
Jay-Z.
So one more question.
This is a whole completely different topic, but Jay-Z is basically the black man's in America
Plight.
paragon. Like he's the people black men look up to.
Yeah. No. The two of them. Ain't no question. Like we can't even. I can't even be bothered. The two of them somehow they found each other. They are explosive. They are exploding all over America and the world, and I'm just grateful for it. One question before we close out, because now that we spent all this time talking about the haters, and really I'm looking at Africans, y'all got to get it together because I'm done. This is ridiculous. This was a moment for us to come and just be thankful.
You mean continental Africans?
Continental Africa. I mean, whoever is hating. Honestly, I don't even know enough about those who are hating because, like I said, I'm not plugged into the media. So I'm hoping this is just some small chatter that doesn't really rise to true level of anything. Beyonce done did it. She brought you all along. Let's just be grateful. Period. End of story. Anything else we got to say about that? No. Now, back to the content. What was your favorite piece?
Oh, we did that. We're closing
Okay,
out.
let's just quickly talk about your favorite piece because
There wasn't.
you didn't have your favorite.
I mean, that's not true, but my favorite piece is probably the one with Tierra Whack because I was a big fan of Tierra Whack from a long time ago, which my daughter realized and pointed out. Oh, that's Tierra Whack.
Tierra Whack. That was good. I forgot
but
about
obviously,
that one.
I mean, but there was tons of other people in there too.
Loved My Power.
That's My Power.
Oh, that was
Tierra
my
Whack.
that's what I
Yeah.
was wondering. No, are you sure? Yeah, that
Yes.
was. Yeah.
There was also that South African.
My Power was hot.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's South African.
I gotta go back and, like I said, I really need to just study this thing because it was amazing. Really liked Juga. What's his name? Burna Boy. That is gonna be my mood outside of Mood Forever, which is my top favorite. Brown Skin Girl was great, but I feel like we done heard it, so it kind of like is part of me now. So
Yeah,
I
but you
don't-
know what? The video actually, I heard it and it's so interesting. And I don't know if it was actually because of the video, but I was feeling it.
The video?
Watching, yeah.
No, the video was hot.
I
All
was
the
feeling
videos
it.
were hot. To be honest, I wish we could do a whole different episode on the visuals.
I was just feeling it, and I remember when you said it, it was like some Indian person was like she felt, and I just felt like for whatever reason it was like wow, that is really powerful.
I'm telling
That
you,
one right
I
now.
wish we could. We probably should do. I feel like Beyonce should be a whole curriculum in college.
Jesus.
Do you understand? Like, this is how powerful. I don't know what we studying. Like, we studying Greek mythology, whatever else we studying, irrelevant at this point. Every black person needs to do a full study of Beyonce and her body of work, particularly Black is King, period. Every black woman should study Lemonade, obviously, because, listen, as a black woman, I mean, I'm going to have to save this conversation for my girlfriends, Lemonade. But Black is King, I think that is necessary study material for every black person. We need to be, like, just taking in all the think pieces, everything, the visuals, you got to understand it. Beyonce put in work. But yeah, so the visuals, second to none. I mean, I can't even say enough about it. It is amazing. Because unless we got somebody else that we could say is on this woman's level, ain't no more conversation.
Now,
But the
I mean,
content,
you're talking about status, or you're talking about doing the kind of thing that she's doing? Because
content,
actually,
the content is on every single song is amazing. Mood Forever, for me personally, is gonna be my mood forever. I mean, I'm about to get a tattoo. I don't know.
like I said,
gotta-
I actually think Burna Boy does a really good job.
he does a good job too. He does.
But obviously not on her status
No.
level.
Beyonce is taking. Let me tell. Burna Boy, I think, does a really good job. I think he speaks more to the plight of Africans, maybe Nigerians, continental Africans, and I think that resonates. I don't even think because Burna Boy does more of a commentary, and maybe he does serve up sort of like he has somewhat of a visionary perspective of this is what you should be doing. We're not having this more. We're not talking about this no more. I'm here to let you know this is what we don't. That's why, like when you look back and look at her body of work, like even Black Parade, someone just called out. If you read the content of the lyrics to Black Parade, which she just released, amazing. If you think about all the stuff that she's done with the Super Bowl, So if you asking me what's my favorite, I loved all the songs. Favorite by far, at least for now, is Mood Forever. And I wish y'all would just go and listen, digest, analyze, because if we not on this as a Black collective, after pushing Black Lives Matter, and we done a whole summer of Black Lives Matter, going into the fall, we need to be refocusing our energy on Mood Forever. That's what we don't. If we can match those two energies, Black people are gonna be unstoppable. That's it. That's all I gotta say there. Be well, all Black people.
Thank you for watching.
Be well. Bola's tribute.
Love affair. Unrequited love affair.
How you know it's unrequited? All right, guys. So thanks again for listening to Some Days Today. We appreciate you. Please, everyone, if you haven't listened to Black is King, do yourself a favor at this point. Kind of like Tyrese was saying, just do yourself a favor. Go listen to Black is King and let your life be changed forever.
Forever and ever.
Forever, ever. Forever and ever. Mood forever. All right. Peace out.